The mind-blowing finale of I Am Not Okay With This left us with many questions about Sid's powers and the mysterious figure. Yippee-ki-yay movie lovers, I'm Jan, and in this video I'll be breaking all of that down and explaining the secret conspiracy that led to Sid's superpowers, plus Season 2 theories. Obviously spoilers ahead, so take care if you haven't seen the show yet. The first season ends with a literal bang when Sid's powers explode Brad's head at the school homecoming. As gruesome as it is, it's also designed to be kind of funny, because Brad unsuspectingly predicted his own demise earlier that same day.
Let's just say that tonight's gonna be mind-blowing.
When Sid flees the scene, she returns to the tower she went to the previous time her powers became massively out of control. As she contemplates her future, we hear whispering voices and a dark cloud of particles arrives on the platform behind her, taking on a human form.
Who are you? Should I be afraid?
They should be afraid.
So who is this strange shadowy figure that's been stalking Sid? This entity can dissolve into a dark cloud, as we saw when it was watching Sid after her training session with Stan. On the one hand, the show seems to hint it could be her father or a vision of him. For example, when Sid mentions to her school counsellor that she thought a man had been following her, Miss Capriotti asks Sid if he looked like her father, and basically suggests that the figure was just a grief hallucination of her dead dad caused by her feelings of loss over him. However, when this mystery figure finally appears in front of Sid on the platform, she doesn't recognise him. We also know that Sid's mother said that when her father was still alive, he believed somebody was following him too. Curiously, in the graphic novel that the show is based on, a shadowy black form appears in a scene where Sid is having sex, and in the comic, it's Sid's powers which unconsciously create this menacing entity. So in the TV show, could this ghostly figure be something that Sid has created from her inner abilities without realising? When Sid and Stan are reviewing the stolen library security cam footage, Stan even comments,
"That just looks like your shadow."
Whoever or whatever it might be, the ending is setting this mystery man up as a mentor figure for Sid in the second season. Stan, who already thinks of Sid as a superhero, pointed out to her that this is classic comic book storytelling.
So each of these comics features an unknown visitor, a professor, a wise old sage, some form of a mentor figure, who visits the hero, explains their abilities, the mythology behind them, how they can harness those powers for good.
This being is probably there to help Sid properly understand how to control her powers and maybe even harness them in a positive way.
So what if I really am a freak? I could be okay with that. I mean, if I really can make a nosebleed with my brain, then maybe it can be used for good.
So far, Sid's struggled to manage her powers. She's tried blocking out negative thoughts and smoking weed, which seem to help somewhat, but these aren't real permanent solutions, as any type of strong emotion or panic trigger her powers in unpredictable and dangerous ways. Season 1 then is Sid's superhero origin story, and the show heavily hints that she received them from her father. When Stan tries to figure out how Sid got her powers, he suggests that
sometimes a person inherits their abilities.
And Sid's mother also tells her,
when it comes to your dad, you have this gift.
There are also obvious parallels in terms of their shared telekinetic powers between Sid and Eleven from Stranger Things, whose own powers originate from the clandestine MK Ultra experiments carried out on her mother. However, the origin of Sid's father's powers is as yet unknown. In fact, the show's co-creator and director Jonathan Entwistle has said there's a much bigger under-the-surface conspiracy to do with the powers that goes back much further. Which makes me wonder whether Sid's father was experimented on by the military after he joined the Marines. And when Stan is trying to figure out the origin for Sid's powers, one of the possibilities he mentions is
secret military experiments.
Sid's father could have been involved in covert military research and trials designed to turn him into a kind of super soldier. One of the best known comic book characters who underwent this type of experiment is Steve Rogers, aka Captain America. Another hint towards experimentation or perhaps a chemical accident being the cause of her father's powers is that we get a number of scenes in Sid's chemistry class.
As the temperature increases, if an atom loses one or more electrons, it becomes oxidized.
And the blackboard behind him is also filled with numerous details about acid and alkaline reactions. We also learned that during her father's final tour, he was the only human being who survived an enormous explosion. What if that explosion was set off by some kind of bioweapon that triggered a mutation in him? Alternatively, the explosion might have gone off next to a chemical facility and killed everyone else but gave him powers. Or perhaps he'd already been experimented on along with others, and the explosion was deliberately engineered to test whether any of them would survive the blast, and only he did. X-Men characters like Wolverine and Deadpool received superhuman healing abilities after being experimented on. In fact, I Am Not Okay With This has numerous allusions to the X-Men from Stan's Not Men comic book, the Wolverine-like spiked gloves that Sid's brother designs for his superhero suit, and the school is also home of the Wolverines. Comic book characters have often received their powers through accidents or mutations. Daredevil got his powers when he was blinded during a chemical accident, and Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel, was an ordinary human who received her powers when she absorbed the energy from an experimental lightspeed engine that blew up. And there's also Stan's Spider Tales comic, referencing the radioactive arachnid bite that gave Spider-Man his abilities. At the end of the season, when the mystery figure tells Sid
they should be afraid,
he could be referring to the people involved in the conspiracy rather than the townspeople. For example, if it is the ghost of her father, he could be looking for revenge. He could have even been murdered and his death made to look like a suicide. Remember, he never left a note. Another possibility is that there are supernatural or even alien forces at play here, given the mystery man's ability to disappear into thin air. There's a hint to this in the poster for the movie They Came From Beyond Space, which is displayed quite prominently in Stan's room. In that movie, space aliens attempt to enslave humans by possessing them. Whether Sid will be able to keep her powers under the radar in the second season is unclear, because her diary, which Brad was reading out, went missing on the dance floor during the panic after his head exploded. It'll be interesting to see how Brad's death is explained by investigators, but some suspicion may fall on Sid given how he was ranting at her just before he died, especially if her diary ends up in the hands of someone who decides to reveal her secret to fellow students, teachers, or the police, or perhaps even ends up blackmailing her about it. Now, if you've read the original graphic novel, you might be thinking that ultimately Sid's journey will end in tragedy because, spoilers for the comic book, Sid commits suicide when she discovers she can't handle her powers. However, Entwistle has specifically said that the Netflix version of the story will not be as macabre and will instead expand the world of the graphic novel. To be honest, a suicide storyline as the final destination for Sid would be a rather bleak way to treat a character who's not only grappling with grief, but also confronting her burgeoning sexuality and feelings of social isolation, who could hopefully still find a path to dealing with all that. Entwistle has also said that while the comic is a story about mental illness and essentially suicide, what he wanted to do with the show was build out the backstory of how Sid got to that point and take all the elements of a journey of somebody being confused by lots of different things in their life and make a different type of genre show. So did the ending of I Am Not Okay With This blow your mind? And who do you think the mystery figure is? Leave your thoughts and theories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, then a thumbs up and a share are hugely appreciated. Tap left for my latest Netflix videos on Lock and Key, Stranger Things and Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, or tap right for another video you're sure to like. Thanks for watching and see you next time, yippee-ki-yay movie lovers!